Hi guys, I'm Sap and I'm going to be talking about SimCity. The dust has finally settled on what was the worst game launch in history. Not going to be talking too much about the DRM, but I will touch on it briefly. But I've logged over 100 hours now. Not every single one of those has had me sat in front of the computer clicking and moving around. I do tend to walk away from it for a bit and come back, see if I'm sat on millions or just a load of abandoned buildings with aliens hovering above. So before I can get to talk about the actual game juice that I wanted to talk about and the reason why I actually wanted to make a video, I had better give my opinions on the DRM. I neither like or hate DRM. I kind of think that we just have to get on and live with it. It's going to be part of the culture of gaming, part of every release from now on. I think we just need to, accept that. At the end of the day, piracy has always been big in games. I remember 17 odd years ago being given a load of pirated CDs, with the key written on. How annoying was that when people wrote the key on the blank disc? Because you'd put it into the drive, you'd start the install process, and then you kind of have to eject and then type the key in and then put the disc back in. Unless you had the foresight, of course, of actually writing on a bit of paper, but then even then it would say it was the incorrect key and you'd have to get it out and go, is that a 2 or a 3, and is that a 5 or a 6? Anyway, piracy's always been big. I can understand that publishers really need to protect their investment more so now than ever. The internet's huge, people have a lot more bandwidth, and if everyone thought that they could get away with just downloading the games for free, we'd do it, and they'd make no money, and then they'd go under, and then we wouldn't get good games, next year. Franchises would just die out, and the industry would die out. So I can understand how DRM protects us. I'm not too concerned about the DRM argument. You can do it right. Just look at Steam. So we knew the maps were going to be smaller, and I don't think anyone was particularly too excited to hear that. But I wasn't expecting to be disappointed by it. I was kind of thinking, well, in a lot of the videos, the maps look like quite a decent size, and if we're going to be zoomed in a lot more of the time, then that's not a problem. And if you're going to specialise your city and have multiple cities in a region, which is exactly how I've been playing, I did not think it would be a problem. But the truth is, your first few cities kind of all multitask. That's what you kind of have to do to get your region really off the ground, unless you want to really be flicking between cities constantly. But still, the map size. I love the curved roads. In fact, the last city, which I've been building, mostly revolves around one big circle in the middle. That's fine, but when you start to expand that, your circle has to turn into a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer square, which kind of begs the question, why don't you just build it square to start with? It's more efficient. And if the squares are going to be that size, and then they're going to start putting like massive gorges and rivers flowing through, or have a quarter of the map as the sea, that's fine too, but surely the map should be bigger to accommodate these features, so you're always left with at least 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers square terrain that you can build on. That way you can have much, much bigger looking regions, but you'd still actually get the same amount of placeable space. I can't imagine that that would mess up the simulation engine that much. It's a render of water, it's blank space. But anyway, the map size, they are just too small, and I've already ended up with a region full of 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer squares of, it just looks completely and utterly unrealistic. And I know whenever anyone says realism about a game, it's always, well, it's a game, it's not meant to be realistic. Yeah, I know, but it's a simulation, and if any game is meant to be chasing after reality, even if they make it fun and whatever, if they're meant to be making a game that sort of chases a simulation, simulation has to have some level of reality to it. And I have never seen a map or a world or a map or a region or a country that just has like these massive blank spaces with just a highway and then these squares of cities popping up with skyscrapers. So this is the one thing that's been annoying me the most. I'm on a region which has a massive river running through it. I'm on a city tile that is cut in half by a fork of a river running right the way through it. Explain to me how I could possibly be short of water. It just makes no sense at all. I had a really, really profitable industrial city where I was making alloy for my great work. And the whole thing has come grinding to a halt because of a water shortage. Now I understand that I could maybe set up another city that has loads and loads of water pumps and that sends it over, and I don't even know if that would remove the water from the actual other city. But the point is, why can't I just suck the water out of the river? Does the water table regenerate? I don't understand how I can be short of water. I really want to know what you think about this in the comments, because this has been driving me crazy. Police following police, buses following buses. This has to be a bug. Why aren't the police patrolling a different part of the city? Why are they just following their buddies? And the buses the same. Why have several buses with only a couple of people on when you've got a bus stop on the other side of the map, which frankly isn't that far away, with loads of people waiting at it for over an hour? Madness. That's got to be just considered a bug, and I think they're working on a fix for that. But another thing on the whole traffic problems is, why can't you connect to the regional highway in multiple locations? When it runs just outside your city boundary and you have that one connection, why can't you add a second and halve the amount of pressure on one small bit of road? If you've tried to make a tourist trap city, you'll know what I'm talking about when you have your exhibition centre and you schedule an event and everything just clogs up for the whole day beforehand. There's a problem there. You should be able to have a couple of connections. You should be able to add them where you want them. I know that there is a map with the highway running all the way through, and that's a really cool idea. Maybe that's the right type of city to be doing this type of thing on. But ultimately, because all the cars move to the far lane, it's still going to clog up in the same way. So this is the good part, where I get to say what I want added to the game, whether it's part of an expansion or they just give us some free DLC to say sorry for screwing up the launch or what. These are things that I really want added. I know they said that modding is not off the table. Don't know how it's going to work, but there's talk of it. So these are things I want from whatever source. I want to be able to gift stuff to any city in the region, not just the ones closest to me. If I've built a really, really profitable little corner and I've got my great work and everything, and I've got a city that's producing millions, why can't I send that to the city right next to it, but just technically outside of its group? That does not make sense to me. Let's gift to any city in the region. They're pushing the multiplayer. The multiplayer would be a lot more effective if you could do that. I've already mentioned the multiple highway connections. That's something I want. Another thing is a seawater treatment plant. Why do we have to worry about the water table? Why can't we just suck it straight out the ocean if we have a connection to, whether it's a river or the sea, whatever? We should be able to just suck it in from that and treat it. It could be really expensive and something that has to be researched at a university, but then you just have no water problems after that. That's something I really want. While we're talking about water, in the first reveal video, we saw a power plant that used a water mill. That's not in the game. Now, I know that was like a sort of like an artist's impression. It wasn't real gameplay, I understand that, but that water mill power plant, that's cool. Let's have that. I think that's a great idea, and that should definitely be in the game, seeing as it was like one of the first things that any of us actually saw about SimCity. 6-lane one-way streets. When you get to that point where your city is all clogged up in the very core of it, and you've gone all the way up to 6 lanes with a streetcar, what else can you do? Well, I think, short of putting another highway right next to it, which, frankly, given the way they sort of choose their paths, it's probably never going to get used. We should be able to mark it as a one-way system. So you have like a big square in the center of your city or a big circle. I think that's a great idea. And finally, better chat. Now, if you're going to make a game that you go, yeah, this is multiplayer, trust us, this is a multiplayer game, then you should at least be able to communicate with the other people playing on the same server in the same region as you. You shouldn't have to do function F1. Maybe I'm missing something. I know there's the whole region wall thing in the top left, but that doesn't notify other people. They have to have it open and they have to be looking at it. It's just I want a better chat system. Please tell me in the comments below if there is actually something I'm missing here. But yeah, at the same time, tell me if you agree with the stuff I've said. Tell me if I'm wrong. Give me your ideas. What do you want improved? What's annoyed you the most about the launch of SimCity? So I'm going to leave you with this. What if we only exist in an alien supercomputer playing SimCity? And what if they get server issues?